All right, we just had a Halloween Havoc, so let's talk about it. That opening match, Tony D'Angelo versus Obafemi in the tables, ladders, and scares match. You know, I'm glad they made it like a pinfall match, but it was kind of weird that we had two matches where essentially was you had uh, a powerhouse who had like torn through uh, pretty much a stable of faces. Love the viciousness of this. It's great seeing two guys just wail on each other. That spear that Obafemi took from the apron through the ladder was ridiculous. The whole time I was like, oh man, we're gonna see Nikita Lyons come out. She's gonna fight him. Crowd's gonna get that extra little pop to it. She didn't come out. That means that's what'll happen on Tuesday. No problem there. D'Angelo family fully got involved. And, beyond the miscommunication where Obafemi, you can tell he hopped a little bit too early for the finished spine most of the table, but Tony D'Angelo got him up. Again, it's one of those things where he put him through a table. He didn't clear the table from underneath him. So when he's pinning him, his shoulder was technically off of the mat because it was still on the table. But anyways, solid opener. Crowd loved it. Cool. That women's tag match. They often say there's levels to this sport. And holy cow. Julia, Stephanie Vakir are incredible. I mean, the weird thing is Cora Jade didn't look super out of place. But then when you saw Roxanne Perez in there with either with Julia or Stephanie Vakir, she operates at their level. And it was amazing. Some of the smoothness and the transitions. I'm like, this is fantastic. That finisher that Vakir hit, I was like, wow, that's an amazing finisher. I love seeing like a twisting moonsault. It was pretty much it was the Phoenix Splash, but there's a little extra twist to it. I mean, just beautiful. My concern with that is, do we have another Hideo Itami Finn Balor moment where you introduce two international stars close to each other, put them in a tag match? Julia, amazing. But Stephanie Vakir has that little something extra that I think translates a lot faster and a lot easier to the American audience than what Julia has. Julia is amazing. But I think there's just that little bit of it factor that Vakir has that I don't think Julia has fully tapped in yet to make it work beautifully well with the mainstream American wrestling market. But crowd match, and I was like, man. I'm like, how do you follow up these two openers? Because they're solid matches, vastly different, but really good. The ambulance match. I'm like, okay, Ridge Holland, Andre Chase, nice build up to it. Again, it was a hardcore style match. I liked that the crowd chanted for pumpkins, and they did a pumpkin spot. But you can tell they weren't planning on using that pumpkin because when Andre Chase threw it at Ridge, it didn't break. It bounced. And I'm like, oh, that's gotta suck. The ending sequence they did with the ambulance, I'm like, you don't play with the door unless something's hit with the door. And yes, Chase hit it with the door. And then, oh man, like the slingshot underneath the door, I'm like, that's super innovative, really brutal looking. Ridge Holland got the victory, and I was like, okay, I expected Chase U to come down and do the attack, and then Ridge would go in there. I'm like, but that's the same thing that happened in your opening match. Seeing Andre Chase inside the ambulance, putting his hand up and like touching the glass, I was like, that's a guy where he's not the best physique, but he understands wrestling, which is great. And I'm like, ooh. I'm like, so do we do Ridge, Tony D'Angelo? I'd kind of like that. Or does Ridge, where does Ridge go from here? Now you have this nice, unstoppable heel. And I'm like, there's a few unstoppable powerhouses. Obafemi gets stopped by a group. And I was like, all right, well, Ridge Holland tore through a group. Maybe he does the same thing against the D'Angelo family. I was like, see where we go with this. Then we get the Fatal Influence Kalani Jordan gauntlet match. And I was like, okay. Like, you get 3 matches in this one. Start out with Jasmine Nix. Decent match, fine. It's one of those things where, had this happened earlier in the night, we'd be super impressed with how it went. after the women's matches you had, where you had 4 amazing women, having 4 women who are not at that level, not saying that they're bad by any stretch of imagination, they're just not at that international, I've done this stuff for, several years, close to a decade, I've traveled the world, that sort of just seasoning and pedigree to it. But, Kalani moved down. I'm like, all right, she's probably going to make it to the 3rd one, because that's how gauntlet matches work. Then has the match with JC Jane. I'm like, okay, JC Jane, solid in the ring. Who would have thought that she would have been, the most prominent member after Toxic Attraction? I was like, okay, yeah. And she lost, but then, of course, she did the post-match beatdown. I'm like, okay, that's good. Fallon Henley ends up getting the victory. And I'm like, I like that they showed her as a valiant champion. She fought as hard as she could. They did, just the right amount of heel trickery. Fallon Henley's got the belt on her. Cool. Then Zarya comes down for her 2nd run-in. I'm like, all right, well, CW kind of botched that one, I watched it on the CW app, and they always like to end with, like, here's other things to watch. We're doing extra credits. So as her music hit and she appeared, she got blocked out by, like, Blue Mountain State, or whatever the other one is, the Denise Richards show that happened like a while ago. And I'm like, I don't want to see the other things. I want to see the person who's debuting. It's like, suck. And she did the beatdown. I'm like, all right, cool. So again, now NXT has picked up an Australian powerhouse, the Chilean assassin, and a Japanese, just incredible wrestler. I'm like, man, it would suck to be in that women's division now, because unless you've got a really defined character, you're going to be cannon fodder for a while. Because you've got the newcomers who are, like Brinley Reese's and all that, and your Carmen Petrovich's. You've got those wrestlers who are starting to like develop themselves, and then they bring in, just 3 elite level wrestlers, and it's like, well, you have to, now all of a sudden the pool of talent has got some big sharks in it now. And I'm like, all right, let's see where we go with this. It's an amazing division now that you can pretty much take about half of it out, and it's still an amazing division. It's incredible. And we got a main event. Trick, at first he came out and I was like, is it Dr. Basilier? And then I saw him like, oh, he's throwing out chocolate. Okay, he's Willy Wonka. Trick Willy Wonka, Hearst, Pennsylvania. I'm like, all right, I get it. I just thought a different level to it. But taking on Ethan Page. Solid match. Again, it's a brutal, hardcore style match, which makes the 3rd out of the 3 men's matches. A couple things I know are going to be in Botchamania. 1, the rope break. 1, trick shot. 1, 2. Ethan puts his foot on the bottom. Ref stops the count. And the ref goes back to the count again. I was like, oh. But Big Joseph covered it well. He was like, Ethan Page is making a complaint about the officiating. Now he got saved by 1. I'm like, okay, good. Way to think on your feet. I don't know if he's got an earpiece and Shawn Michael went, do a callback. And he just threw it out. I'm like, good save, good save. They did a spot with the ring pose, with the ring steps. And Trick went gut first. And then you see him doing this. Just heavy chomping. And I'm like, oh, he's chewing on the blood capsule. With the next spot being a step-assisted Ego's Edge through the table. And then, the pinfall and the kick out. And then, like, the minor bit of, I hate these moments when they do, oh, he's injured. Here comes the medical staff. And the heel has to be like, what am I supposed to do? But at least Ethan Page knew enough, like, all right, I'm going to put the hardware in the ring. Set up for the finale of the match. Now, maybe the ref should have been like, okay, you're going to do the stair bump. Yeah. While we're doing the Ego's Edge spot, yeah, that's when you chomp hard on the capsule. Because you're not the focal point in that moment. So, like those 2 moments kind of like, just a little bit of me trying to go, good match, great build up, like the way it was flowing. Just those little hiccups here to make it go, But the finish with like, I got steel steps. I'm gonna hit you in the dick. You're not gonna go, I'm gonna go. I've got steel steps over my head, hit you in the dick. And I was like, I get it why you don't do the drop them on your head, because it's an unpredicted shot to the head. And then, trick knee, 1, 2, 3. Like, all right. How he finishes off. Ridge Holland jumps him. Like, all right, who's made it safe? They kept on cutting to Bubba Ray and was it like David Lagina, something like that. And I was like, all right, real dead spots. I know why they did it. You cut to that, so then you can do things in the ring, get things cleared out. But it just, I don't know if they just weren't paying attention or what. And I was like, oh man, you see when she debuted? You know what her name is, right? And I was like, it's so bad. Someone just debuted, and you're like, shoot, it just happened? How about that opening match with Tony D'Angelo? And I'm like, I skip through them. I'm like, no. I watch wrestling for wrestling. I'll watch like a promo package, get us hyped up for it, but random, let's talk with people to kind of, give some downtimes. No, that's why you do promo packages. If you need to clear the ring or reset things, you do a promo package for the next match. But liked it. Thought the matches were good. Very little in the way of like dead spots, which was good. Again, this is that fantastic Triple H thing of how many matches are we gonna do? We're gonna do 5. What about Tuesday? Well, we'll build up matches for Tuesday. Okay. The tag match sounds awesome. Heritage Cup with Regal in the corner of Lexus King against Charlie Dempsey. That sounds good. The continuation of Tatum Paxley and Wendy Chu in a casket match, knowing that Wendy Chu got turned on by Rosemary at Bound for Glory. I'm like, I wouldn't mind seeing a triple threat like Spooky Girl match. I'm totally fine with it. And I was like, I like when the event has conclusions to certain things, builds up to other things. And I'm like, you know what? I love these 5-card matches. I mean, the 5-match card. Great stuff, easy to get through. You can build it up easily. Yeah, it doesn't mean everyone gets on the event, which is fine, but it also means too that you're not burning the crowd out.